We're speaking to Jonti Mayer, personal life coach and author of a book called Conscious Manifestation. How do you create a life of infinite possibility when you're raising an autistic child? Life no longer revolves around you. You're caring for the autistic child's needs. They need special diets. You know, they've got a million therapists. I know in my home, I'm actually vegetarian. I'm last on the list to get dinner, breakfast, lunch. So how do you create a life of infinite possibility? Because that's what your book, Conscious Manifestation, is all about.
Fundamentally, most people at some point in their lives are going to be thrown a curveball at the end of the day, right? Most people. There are very, very few people whose lives do not get derailed at some point in some way. That's just the nature of our journey on this planet. And, you know, having an autistic child, having a special needs child is going to derail a person for a certain amount of time. Everybody is going to respond to it differently, okay? But at the end of the day, a person needs to embrace the challenge to the best of their ability and yet still be in touch with who they are and what they want. Okay? And a large portion of my book is grounded in this concept that a life of infinite possibility is created by getting in touch with who we are and with what we want. And who we are and what we want changes. It's a dynamic process, and it's certainly going to change as a result of a person having an autistic child. Every parent will need to make a choice. And this is true for parents also who have healthy, normal children, and I'm really putting normal in inverted commas, in a few inverted commas, because I don't know if there's such a thing as a normal child, right? But at the end of the day, you know what I mean, and your listeners will know what I mean. But people have to stay in touch with who am I and what do I want, in spite of what is coming their way. And sometimes what is coming their way will change that, and sometimes they will need to manage their lives differently, you know, given their resources. In the early morning, where you are taking time for yourself, spend a few minutes writing down what you want. It doesn't matter if you think it's possible or impossible. Reconnect with that dream inside of you. Keep the dream going for a few minutes every morning, in spite of the nightmare. That is how spring emerges from winter. Keep on planting those seeds of manifestation every single day.
When I was reading your book, I struggled to actually reach my desires because I almost called you to say, Jonty, we have to talk. I can't, you know, because your desires change. And when I was reading your book 2 weeks ago, I was struggling to access those desires because I felt, you know, I've been on this autism road for 16 years, and a lot of times I feel so deep under the rubble, like I've made this fortress around me, and impenetrable fortress. Every day I put on my bulletproof vest, and I'm tough and I can get through this. And now in your book, you're asking me to think about what I desire. And it's almost like, what do you mean, what do I desire? I don't count. I'm here to look after my child. So you really make me stop and think about what you were saying. And I even pulled Martin aside and discussed it with him and asked him what his desires were. So it was very, very uplifting, you know, to actually think about this. It took me a couple of days before I could actually access my desires. Now, that brings me to what is conscious manifestation, because you can't manifest if you don't have a desire, correct? But what is conscious manifestation?
Manifestation is the process, the ability that we are all given to take what we want or an idea that is occurring to us in the mental realm, in the ethereal realm, and convert that into a physical reality, right? So that's a manifestation. Conscious manifestation is understanding all the different aspects to the process and using them with full awareness to go from idea or desire into physical result. So for example, if you look at the Star Academy, one day in the early part of your journey, you had this idea and you had this desire, and this idea merged with this desire to provide this amazing, incredible space for children and parents. And at one point, that was just an idea. And at one point, that was just a desire. And what you did, Ilana, is that you took this desire, you took this idea, and you have created it into this thriving, amazing, incredible organization that is helping hundreds, maybe thousands of people around the world. So you actually are a master of manifestation in this particular area, right? You may not think about it, but that's the truth. And in truth, you know, many, many people, all people are gifted with the ability to manifest. It's just that very, very few people are working it consciously, or working it deliberately, or working it daily. But we are gifted with this ability for conscious manifestation.
I like how you use the word ability, because you tell us we have the ability to choose. We have the ability to manifest. And that really gives me confidence. I like hearing that word ability. And I think people must remember that even if you think you don't, you do have the ability to do these things. So I really like that. Now, in your book, you speak about speak your truth. And I was thinking about that because parents of autistic children have so many therapists in their lives, doctors in their lives, and it's very hard for them to sometimes be honest with the people in their life, and they feel vulnerable. They've been forced into this position where they need help. They need, as you said, get help. Okay, so now we got the help. Now there's the help. But now, what advice can you give parents about speaking your truth? Because I think, and I certainly know I felt that way, I would often be afraid of speaking the truth to the people in my life who were working with my child because I felt vulnerable and I felt I couldn't always be honest because I needed them.
Yeah. Look, speaking your truth is a long journey, and not everybody is able to actually speak their truth in the beginning. And sometimes when a client comes to see me, I have to train them to actually get honest, get real, speak the truth, speak your truth. It's one of the most therapeutic processes, right? It's one of the most powerful processes, and it's one of the most necessary processes. Your body will speak your mind if your mind doesn't speak your truth. I'm going to say that again. Your body will speak your mind, often in the form of some kind of dis-ease, if your mind doesn't speak your truth, right? So a safe space is required, an honest space is required in order for you to really be able to speak your truth. But speaking the truth opens your channels of creativity, opens the channels of joy, opens the channels of freedom, opens the channels of abundance. So it's quite a complex process in the beginning, because sometimes being honest and being truthful can also hurt the people around you. And so, you know, guidance of a good therapist or a good coach is absolutely required. But most people will feel better as a result of just speaking their truth.
I wanted to share the truth that I found that was in conflict with the old school of why autism happens, how it should be treated, and that's really why I wrote the book, so that I could share it with share that truth with other parents. I like that you say that you can be trained to speak your truth. That's why I really think having a life coach like you is so important when you're walking this hard journey raising a special needs child. How will believing in yourself as a parent help you to find those treatments that will ultimately lead to your child's healing and improvement? I think it's very challenging for parents on this autism journey when they have appointments with doctors in this country who they perceive to be the top experts, and these doctors are telling them, accept it, there's nothing you can do, this is how it's going to be for his life. You know, I even had a family member many years ago, 16 years ago, when our autism journey started, a family member told us, you know, put him in a home. So how do you believe in yourself when you've got all these outside opinions?
A parent has a special connection to their child, no matter what. Okay? That's just the God-given energetic field, actually, between parent and child. Now, some parents may choose to disconnect from that energetic field, but due to such extreme circumstances, and I get that, but at the end of the day, we are energetic beings and we have access to what's called intuition. Tune in to what you feel is true for you and what you feel is true for your child. There are countless stories about women who have taken their babies to a doctor and they have known that something is wrong, and the doctor said, no, nothing is wrong. And the women have always been correct, right? And maybe this is even more applicable to women than to men, but women are gifted with intuition. They can feel their children. And I encourage women and all parents to nurture that feeling sense, that intuitive sense that will assist them to know what's right and what's best for their child. So if you want to do something, one of the most important ingredients is believing that you can. And if you don't believe you can, then you need help to break through those blocks.
I think it takes time to believe in yourself, because in later years, I did learn to believe in myself. And today I do believe in myself. So I do think that it takes time. And then, you know, you talk about the connection that we as parents, we as mothers have with our children. And you raised such an important point, because we have that special connection. And I can see when parents go through this hardship, how tempting it can be to just disconnect. You know, if you disconnect, you have a no-care attitude, it can be so much better. I must say, I'm the happiest when all three of my children are safe at home. I'm fortunate that I managed to keep that connection, even through this hardship. But I had to fight through it. You know, my middle son was typically developing. And sometimes I feel guilty, and I feel like he suffered the most because I was always tending to the other two who needed me more. And there was a part of me that almost always disconnected from him because he didn't need me. He didn't need me. And I had to push through it, and I had to fight to remind myself, but he did need me. Even though he was typically developing, he did need me. So
there are 10 parts, 10 aspects to the journey of manifestation, of conscious manifestation. And practice one is all about slowing down, right? We live very hectic lives, and in order for us to really get conscious, we need to just slow down. I talk a little bit about mindfulness, I talk about presence, I talk about connection, and I talk about that being a foundation to access deeper parts of ourselves. Practice number 2, activate your desire, right? Very, very fascinating practice that in order to get what you want, you have to know what you want. Spend 5 minutes in the morning just writing down what you want, no matter how far-fetched it seems. You'll be amazed at the seeds that are planted when you write something down. An inspired parent is far more effective than an uninspired parent, right? There is something about your inspiration, Ilana, that touches your children and touches all the children, and in fact touches all people and all parents, right? So we have to nurture inspiration in ourselves. Practice number 4, abracadabra. You create as you speak, right? All of us, we are creating our lives through the way we are speaking every single day. There's lots to say about that. That's a whole session in and of itself. But the way you speak to your child is going to impact the child. What you say about your child impacts the child. Our words are extremely, extremely potent. Practice number 5, cleanse your lens, right? At the end of the day, we see the world through who we are. And the more you're able to actually become a clear vessel, and I know that it sounds a little bit esoteric, but this will also be, this will also go to the point of when, if you're feeling miserable, cry out your pain. There's nothing more important than releasing the pain that you are in so that you can pursue your best life.
I cried oceans of tears, and Martin said he didn't come home for a year straight without me crying.
Yeah, I have no doubt about that. But those tears enabled you, the releasing of that pain enabled you to do what you are doing today. You need power to manifest your dreams. Simple, right? You just need to be powerful. So you need to reclaim your power on all the ways that you lost it. Practice number 7, discover your genius, right? Every single person is gifted with an ability to make a difference in the world. And in order for us to live our best lives, we've got to know what we're good at. We need to offer it to the world. Practice number 8, peel the onion. Nothing happens instantly. Everything is a process. You've got to constantly be in process in order to get to where you want to get to. Practice number 9, make a difference, right? Ultimately, our joy in life comes from the love that we give, not the love that we receive. And finally, practice number 10, live in gratitude. You know, ultimately, the world, in spite of all of its pain and hardship and chaos and confusion, there's still moments of happiness that we need to prioritize in order to live our best life and in order to give thanks to God. So no matter what, you know, we can find the gift in the situation, we can find the joy, we can find the happiness, we can find the moments of transcendence and beauty only if we have gratitude, and that would also be a choice. We have to choose to be grateful in spite of the terrible, terrible hardships that we face. Finally, people can reach me through my website at jontimayer.com, JONTIMAYER.com. My book is available at Exclusive Books or directly from me. And if there are any other comments from you, Ilana, I'm happy to try and answer them. But thank you for having me. It's been absolutely wonderful.
Jonty, thank you so much for your time. Well done for your book. I know I couldn't put it down. We are so proud of you. You have been a guiding light to me and Martin for many, many years. This was such a powerful session. You imparted pearls of wisdom. Thank you so much.